Good afternoon to you. Glad you're with us on Newzroom today. We start with developments in the last 2 hours with the newly elected ANC Youth League President, Collen Malatjie, saying one of the key objectives of his leadership will be to increase the involvement of young people in the economy. The ANC Youth League conference taking place over the weekend with delays as different factions could not agree on policies similar to what we've seen at other ANC conferences, and particularly what we saw in Nasrec in December. The Youth League, as you know, going through a turbulent period without proper leadership in the last 8 years. Malatjie says it's unacceptable that younger people are excluded from political activities and the economy of their own country.
At the center of our discussions, it was mainly the issue of the restructuring of the economy to benefit the majority. And that is the spirit that we're organizing ourselves on. We want to be known as the leadership that was able to address that fundamental issue. Because different generations have addressed different issues. The Peter Mukaraba generation and many other generations have delivered us to political freedom. But that was not a total freedom that was fought for. Majority of young people in South Africa still remain unemployed. Majority of young people in South Africa are still the faces of crime. Majority of young people in South Africa are still highly excluded from their own activities of their own country, their own economic activities of their own country.
Well, at that press conference, our senior political correspondent, Ziyanda Ngcobo, she's been monitoring the Youth League and through the weekend. She joins us now with more on this. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. So, for the first time in a long while, we have a leadership of an ANC Youth League. What is going to be the main priority of Collen Malatjie and the people elected with him?
Well, to be fair, they did concede that they still haven't concluded the business of conference. There's still going to be closing remarks. But one of the things that Collen Malatjie mentioned was that almost immediately they want to ensure that there must be 50% representation of young people in Parliament. And to quote, Parliament is not a retirement village. Let's listen to what he said earlier.
We're going to release conference, we're going to elections. We're very clear. We're not going to accept any less than 50% of young people in Parliament and legislature. Parliament is not a retirement village. We're going to use the 50% that of the older will remain. We'll use them for wisdom. But we don't need to have 80% of them in Parliament. If it means we get to 70, we'll be very happy. But we're not saying that we're cleaning them out. But we're saying that majority must be us because the future belongs to us. You can't say we're planning an agenda 2050, but that agenda is planned by somebody 70 years. You will not be there to account for all of those issues. We need to take responsibility of our own future. And this leadership is not apologetic about that. It's going to happen. The executive is going to be us. And everything that has to do with the power of this country, young people will be in the forefront of driving that agenda. And that is, we're going to be the voice to make sure we represent that interest.
So, Ziyanda, it's one thing for the ANC Youth League to say we want more young people in Parliament. The ANC Youth League has said that since 1994.
Yeah.
But older people in the ANC are unlikely to give up their positions very easily.
And even added to that, Stephen, is how there's always been this age-old debate about the Youth League removing itself and being really autonomous, even in the type of politics that they espouse. But then if you look at what happened over the weekend, the same issues, bogus delegates, late registration, credentials issues, the politics is exactly the same. So, I mean, Collen Malatjie started off that briefing by saying, you know, we've got our autonomy back. We went to our 26th Congress and we've gotten our autonomy back. And yet, there's also still mounting speculation and rumors that they're proxies of Fikile Mbalula. This is said to have been a Fikile Mbalula slate who is said to be preparing for 2027. Project 2027 is what it's being dubbed. And so, again, how is the Youth League now, one, going to fill the vacuum that was created in the last 8 years, but two, to really ensure that even if not true, they are not seen or deemed to be proxies of the mother body, i.e. Fikile Mbalula, or even President Cyril Ramaphosa. And that is actually something, I think, a challenge that they'll have to face. Another interesting aspect was around the finances of the ANC Youth League. And the newly elected Treasurer, Zwelo Masilela, also spoke about reinventing their investments, you know, going back to some of the investment arms and seeing how they reorganize that, but ensuring that the next 4 years that they're stable. And just to go back to my point about them being proxies of sort, or being seen to be proxies, you remember that one of the amendments at the weekend was that the term of office is now going to be 4 years. And so this youth league, if they do manage to organize themselves, could be a formidable force going into that 2027 election. They would have probably rebuilt their structures if they do get to that point, and their rebrand. So it will be very critical for this youth league, like I said, to be autonomous so that they seem to be independent of the mother body politics.
When you talk about young people in politics in South Africa, almost inevitably the conversation moves to Julius Malema. He may be, I think, 40 now, but still, that's where it goes. So the ANC Youth League wants more younger people involved in politics. You see around our country that younger people generally don't vote as much as older people. What do they say about younger people? What do they say about Julius Malema, Ziyanda?
So that's very interesting, because Collen Malatjie was speaking about, when asked about rebranding and renewing the organization, you know, talking about how they're not going to be like Julius Malema, who they say has created a cult. I want us to actually play that bite, and then we'll talk about whether or not this was a good start for one Collen Malatjie.
Malema was fired for economic freedom. Not true. It's a lie. It's a lie. That must be clarified. He was fired for ill discipline. He was fired for contravening the constitution of the ANC and the Youth League. He wanted to create a Youth League to be a cult organization that belongs to him, like the EFF. Then the EFF there, no matter how educated you are, you can't even speak. Educated doctors walk, they run around with water everywhere. Now here in the ANC, you are allowed to bring your views. That's why in the ANC we have got policy conferences, we have got NGCs, we have got meetings, platforms, we have got BGMs. Everyone, we even went further during the local government elections to open up our candidacy to communities. That is the ANC, it's not a cult organization. That's why everyone who wants to form, who behave like cult, we expel them in the ANC. When they try to form their own organization, people move away from them. People like Julius is popular on Twitter. If you can do a Twitter vote, according to Twitter, Julius will be the president of the country today. But our communities of the country reaffirms that the ANC is the only parliament of the people. And the ANC is the first organization to acknowledge its mistakes and problems.
So, Stephen, a very interesting bite there from Collen Malatjie for two reasons. One, the fact that he's speaking about Julius Malema, to me, says that there's been a vacuum of young leaders in the space. And so, inevitably, you'd speak about a Julius Malema, whose party is turning 10 years old at the end of this month. But it also speaks to how some would argue that, when Julius Malema left, he personified the ANC Youth League. So what does the Youth League look like beyond Julius Malema, beyond the sloganeering, the rhetoric, or the militancy of the type of politics that you espouse? But also, there wasn't any talk about 14 million unregistered young people to vote next year, which you would think would be the first thing on the agenda of the Youth League outside of Julius Malema. I wonder if Julius Malema will respond to this, because it would mean then he's directly engaging the Youth League and maybe not necessarily the mother body. But certainly some have already said that not really a good start for Malatjie to be talking about an opposition leader when you're trying to set your own agenda.
There's so much that's going on here. In a way, if you think of the ANC Youth League, you think of Julius Malema, you think of Peter Makaba, depending on how far your memory goes, you'll go to Walter Sisulu and Nelson Mandela. But the ANC Youth League, in a way, needs to create its own identity now, and that's actually quite difficult. There was a time when, hi, I'm from the ANC, can I come into your house and talk to you, most people would probably let you in. I don't know if that's the same anymore.
And that's actually something that the Deputy Secretary, Olga Siate, actually admitted, that it's going to take time, that they're going to have to rebrand, understand themselves after this 8 years, the kind of politics that they need to represent going into the future. Whether you're talking about, digitizing their processes, or whether you're talking about the financial sustainability of the organization in 2023 when you have such high unemployment rates. As you've said, do the young people actually believe in this youth league leadership? I mean, there was an interesting question about the qualifications that this youth league has, and not because it was being facetious or condescending, but unlike, many of the leaders in the mother body, they don't have the struggle credentials to talk about when talking about being placed in positions that Stephen Curtis is more senior than Ziyanda Ngcobo according to my military ranking. Here, we need to be talking about, one, are you trying to garner young black voters who are professionals? And if so, then what kind of language are you using, your tonality? And will they open their doors for you if you come knocking, or will they just dismiss you as a youth league that's just known for sloganeering and rhetoric without actually talking real things that are relatable in terms of, what professionals have to say about certain spaces, the energy crisis? What will the Youth League have to say about that? Russia, Ukraine. So we'll have to see then, the kind of capacity that they have and the ideas that they have, and if they will be also equal to the task of challenging the mother body in instances where they feel that young people aren't being represented.
Senior Political Commander Ziyanda Ngcobo, thank you very much indeed to appreciate it.